Okay, the recording has started. And the videos will be published on YouTube, and we also decided to share the presentations, to upload the presentations onto the orienteering.sport website. And we will send you an email about these to all of you during next week. So let's start off then. And our first session will be about mapping, mostly about sprint mapping. And the presenter of this session will be the IOF Map Commission Chairman, Krista Carlson. Krista, I saw that you are here. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yes. Fine.
Yes. So, the next step will be that I will share my screen, or is that correct? Yes. I try it now. And yes. Do you see my screen?
Not yet. Okay, I would like to ask everyone else to mute your microphone.
Do you see the screen now, Aaron?
No, I still don't see it.
Shit. Perhaps I do some mistake then. I'm not used to this, so.
Okay.
I press that button.
Yeah, what you have to do is to.
No, yeah. Perhaps now. Do you see it now?
Now it's fine, Krista. Yes, we see your screen now.
Thank you. So now you can see the correct screen. Okay. Is it correct, Aaron?
That's right.
Yes. So, okay, then I will start. If it's okay with you.
Yes, please do that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. As Aaron said, my name is Krista Carlson from Sweden. I am the chairman of the Map Commission, if you not have heard that before, and I've been that since 2017. And it's the first time I do definitely some kind of presentation, not for a live audience. So perhaps I have to excuse myself with this, not so very used to it, but I will do my best. Okay. And this is the topics I want to talk to you about today. First, I want to talk a little bit about controlling the maps for major events and also for the IOF ranking events, because very often there are some misunderstandings and so on about who is responsible for the map checking. I will talk a little bit about generalization, which is of course the main problem that very often occurs in our competitions. And then the main part of the presentation will be about some sprint mapping problems. And yeah, we have seen some problems this year, problems or misunderstandings or lack of information, I don't know, but there have been several complaints about mapping during the World Champs and the final World Cup final this autumn. So I will talk a lot about that, and I will explain to you a little what we in Map Commission have tried to solve this problem. Some small changes we propose in the specification, and also that we will present some more guidelines for the mappers, how to solve all of these very difficult problems in sprint mapping. Finally, I will talk also quite a lot about printing problems, because we have also seen printing problems this year in our major events. And here we can also include the problems that we had on World Championship with the plastic bags that was not sufficient enough. But mainly about printing, because there is a lot of misunderstandings around the world how to print our maps. Yes, that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Okay, so we'll start with some map checking or map control issues. Okay, now this was I forgot to show you this picture. The problems that we have seen during this year. Can take it once more. The printing has been a problem. At least one competition was printing problem that many complaints have reached the Map Commission. We have bad generalization also in at least one competition this year. The plastic bags, world champs. Map was not following specification. That happens in several competitions this year. And that the sprint map specification that is called ISPROM was not covering the situation that actually was in the competition area. This was very clear in Tereshin on the World Championship, that the mapper together with me have to really find out how to draw this very specific terrain, because there was no really rules in the specification how to draw these tunnels and stuffs that occur there. And also the last part here is what happens every year, because Map Commission have a responsibility to check maps for IOF major events, but tragically very often it is like the maps never reach us, or we have to send several angry letters or so on to the organizers that we demand to see the maps. And sometimes finally we get the maps, and we propose some changes, but nothing happens. So that is an ongoing problem for the last years. Okay, now to Map Commission's map control over IOF major events. We have an obligation, or the council have demanded us to make a technical control of the maps for the major events. That this doesn't mean that we are going to visit the terrain to see how the map is drawn physically, but we shall be able to look at the actual map files to see that it theoretically are following the specification. And this check has come out of some years ago, where there was a lot of maps that was not following the specifications. It was wrong size of symbols on the map. There was too many small areas mapped and so on. So therefore, we got this job to do. And I also, the history a little bit about this is going back to Sweden, because in Sweden we started this technical map change check. I think now it's 10 years ago, because we had the same problem, even worse problem, that in the IOF events. And the improvement of the map quality has been really good since we started this control. So what do we check if we get the map files? We do check that the size and the look of the map symbols is correct. This means that the contours are not too thin, or like the nulls are not too small. There is a specific size of all the symbols in the map specification, and this is very easy to check if you get the map files. So that is the first thing we check, that all the symbols in the map are in the correct size and the correct look. Then the next thing we check is the minimum size of area symbols on the map. And during these years we have done this job, only one competition have sent in maps to us where we couldn't find almost any too small area symbols, and that was the World Championship in Norway. I must say that because it was really good. Perhaps there was some other problems in the map, I don't know, but at least this was very good. Because very often, when you start to look at the map, there are thousands of areas in the maps that are too small. And mainly we're talking about too small green areas, especially the light green, and light yellow, the 50% yellow, too small. And yeah, it's the green and the yellow areas. And the problem is, why are there a minimum size of these area symbols? It is because if they are too small, you are not able to see them on the printed map in running speed. And of course it is, if the mapper puts an area on the map, the meaning is that the runner, the competitors, should see this symbol. But on the other hand, if you are mapping, it's very easy to you are standing there looking at some very nice little clearing or a thickness in the forest, and you draw it exactly as it looks. And yeah, I can understand the mapper, and I do it a lot of myself all the time. But then you have to think once more: is it too small or not? And tragically, it is not that the mappers very often do this. So we get maps where there are thousands of too small area symbols. And the specification says that if it's too small, you have to make it larger. You have to make it go up to the next level. If you have a light green area, make it middle green instead, because then you can have a smaller area, or you just take it away. So this is what we very often complain about maps. The next thing that we check is the minimum distance between objects of the same color. And why do we check this? Because if this is mainly black or brown symbols that gets too close to each other, so you don't have not any white space between them. And then when you print the map, especially if you laser print it, the symbols you will not see that there is a gap between the two symbols, and suddenly the map will be very hard to read. Mainly the problem is that you have boulders below cliffs. Very often there are boulders below the cliffs, and the mapper puts the boulder just close to the cliff. It's very often. You have null and you have a contour line with no space between them, and suddenly you have like a brown mess on the map. And you can have like a path running along a stone wall. You can have a power line running along a path. Yeah, you can see there are a lot of situations that you have to have some spacing or cartographic gap, as it's called, between the symbols. So the mapper have to take the symbols away from each other. And the minimum distance between all symbols is 0.15 millimeters in the forest map, and also in the sprint map, with the exception if you have two impassable objects, then it's 0.4. Because you should be very clear to see that you can pass like between two buildings or something like this. This is also normal that you get when you get a map. There are hundreds or even thousands of these conflicts that occurs on the map. We have finally the use of form lines. And this is mainly a Swedish or Finnish problem. Perhaps it's the Nordic terrain, I don't know. But this must also be checked. Sometimes we have seen maps that with 3 or 4 form lines between two counters. And suddenly the terrain looks steep, but in the real life it isn't steep at all, because there are form lines everywhere, and the specification says that only one form line is allowed between two counters. So this is also checked by the Map Commission. And then finally, it's overall standard of the drawing, because sometimes there is a lot of mistakes. How actually the map looks, because the contours can be they are not smooth, they are like only straight lines, or it's hard to explain, but we try to help them, the mapper, to make the map, because it's about readability of the map. If it's not technically well drawn, it will be much harder to read the map. So this is what we try to check. If I'll come back to that all the time. If we get the maps from the organizers, and sometimes I think that we have to request help from the event advisor to push on the organizer that, as it's written here in red, the Map Commission requests the map files not later than 6 months before the event. And this, of course, we can get it even earlier, but perhaps then there is a lot of changes in the map. So normally for a very big competition, we think then that the maps will be ready half a year before the competition, at least almost ready. Of course, there will be some late changes. And if we get them later than 6 months, that sometimes occurs, then the organizers will answer, okay, we have read your complaints, but there is too little time. We cannot do anything about it, because soon the maps will be printed or so on. So 6 months is, we think it's quite the best time to make this check. And finally, at least
Christer,
as we, yes?
Christer, we have a question from Kjell Söniksen.
Yes, please.
Hello, Christer.
Hello.
I just have a comment about this 6 months before the event. I find for sprint maps, where you tend to have changes, and sometimes big changes, up until weeks before the event. 6 months, the map 6 months before the event can be quite different from the competition map. So when do you finally approve the map?
We approve the map when we think that it's good enough. I mean, okay, but sprint maps, like there must be a first draft, or the whole area must be mapped at least for the first time 6 months before the competition. We are very well aware of that there can be a lot of changes, but what we look at is the overall impression of of the map standard. Even okay, there can be a lot of changes, but the map is still drawn for the first time. And I mean, we will not complain if there is in the whole map 15 or 22 small areas. What we want to see is that there isn't 1,000 mistakes in the map. I mean, we can never, it was only in Norway that we can go down to zero mistakes. So still, I want to stick to the 6 months, because it's also like there can be some communication sending several versions of the maps, and the clock is ticking. And perhaps the mapper are not agreeing with the map commissions. So still 6 months, but we don't request the final version of the map. We want to see the impression of the mapping job, really. Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
We have another question from Chen Chao.
Yes, please.
Yeah, for some reason we don't hear you.
You don't hear me?
Okay, now you hear me?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. I'm Chen Chao. Hello, everyone. I'm from OAC. I have same question about the map trick, because in the year last year, into 20 the year last year World Cup final, we have yes, in the Guangdong, and we have the same problem in the map trick, because some reason it's because of some reason we didn't complete the map trick programs before the competition. We finished the year one half the month before the competition. Three Czech Republic mapper was finished the map, so we didn't have enough time to map check, and the map commission didn't send the person come to the China to check the map.
But
yes.
let me answer this, because as I tried to tell you, that the map commission will not go to check the map.
Yes.
We will only check the map files. We don't. There is no organization or anything for a map commission.
Yes, but it's a problem in the competition. In the middle distance, some elite runner was disqualified because they run into the forbidden area. It's a small part in the area, in the forbidden area. It caused we disqualify, and they campaign their map. Yes, it's caused some problem. So
I remember this. I remember this because I was checking the map because I had some communication there with Jaroslav Kaczmarczyk, who was a little bit in charge of this. But there was the problem that I could not understand how the terrain actually looked. For me, it looked okay, but then after the competition, I realized how the map looked. That was a very specific problem, because yes, okay, I've been in China, I've been mapping in China, but still I couldn't understand how it looked in this specific place.
Yes.
But my opinion in that competition was that I didn't think that the map was the problem really. It was more the problem. Perhaps the competitors didn't understand the terrain, or it was very unusual for them because the map was correct.
Yes.
But perhaps, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. In the 2018, we have a map similar in China, high level similar. And Ludek as a lecturer as a instructor have a lecture with us. They also he also mentioned about map trick. He say the map commission have their map trick programs formed. But I think in many Asia and development orienting country, we didn't have an experiment to how to check the map. So I think it's the problem. We have to solve this problem. We as a event advisor, we need to know how to check the map before we send the map file to the map commission. Yes.
I hope that I will clear some of this matter later on in this presentation.
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes. 6 months is okay.
We try it at least with 6 months. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I will try to continue.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I will go on. Just to mention here, if we have the what do we want from the map commission view? What do we want the senior event advisor to focus on? Because you are on spot and you have the primary communication with the organizers. It's very important. We think that it's very important that you will be aware about the timetable, that the maps are not finished too late, because this very often happens. The generalization is always a problem. We have seen during the last years some problem that has not been the same over the whole map. Different mappers, perhaps different terrain, but in the end some not very good result. And of course, we want you to push the organizers, the mappers, to following the rules that I mentioned before. So we, of course, want to have the Norwegian situation. When we get the maps finally, the maps are already almost correct. Then that's the best. The first time you meet with the organizers, with the mappers, push very hard on that they shall follow the specifications, the rules mentioned in the specification. And finally, the printing process. Because as it is now, we are a little bit in the time where we are changing the way of printing our maps. For many years, it has been offset printing with PMS colors. And nowadays, we are changing to more and more laser printing, and the PMS colors are gone. And therefore, there's very much uncertainty out there about how to print the maps. I will talk more about printing later, but it's very important for the event advisors to secure the printing process, because there has been some problems with that. Okay. And if you have a competition, there is no senior event advisors, only event advisors. I mean, the responsibility on the event advisor is even more. It's higher, because then the map commission will never see the maps. So please, if you are an event advisor, focus on the same things. But then you have the whole responsibility. We will not over-check this or something like that. Especially be aware of the printing, because printing is a problem, unfortunately. Yes. Okay, let's move on to a few words about generalization about the map. What do I want to show you here? I show you two maps that looks complicated. And here I want to show you that generalization is a tricky thing, because one of the maps have very high generalization, and the other map is a very bad generalization. I mean, it means what I want to show you here is that you cannot set the same standard in all terrains. The map on the right-hand side is from World Championship this year. And there the mappers have worked extremely hard to try to generalize the maps. They didn't reach the specifications demands 100%, but in that case, this, as I think, it was the best solutions. Because if they had made more generalization, the map you have not been able to understand the map because of this very specific terrain. But the other map on the left-hand side, it's a very normal terrain, not very far from where I sit and talk to you now. And this map is extremely bad generalized. All of these problems that I talked to you about earlier you can see black objects too close to each other, there are too many form lines, too small area symbols, etc., etc. That is really example of a very bad generalized map. And also I can just say that nobody should think that I am very naughty to some mapper, some Swedish mapper. It's mapped by myself. And that was just before we started to check the maps in Sweden. So I'm really ashamed of that map. But that is really example. If you get a map like this as an event advisor, you should press the big stop button and say start all over again, because this is not acceptable. But on the other hand, the Czech map, it's example of very good generalization. And what means generalization? Here is example again, and also this is the same bad mapper as before. It's my own maps. It's a sprint map and it's a forest map of the same area, mapped almost the same time. And this time I tried to generalize. As you can see on the right hand side, it's a complicated area, but you can see the paths between the houses, the black paths. On the right hand side it's just showing that you can run, because the houses are lying there up a hill. You can run between the houses. And if you look at the sprint map on the left hand side, you can see it's very complicated there with stairs and stuff. And this is what generalization means, that you can only draw what is understandable for the specific map. So in the sprint map you don't have to generalize so much as in the forest map. The important thing is that the map should be readable in running speed, but you cannot generalize too much, because then the runner will not understand the map. So it's tricky with generalization. So this is something, as if you are an event advisor, you have to discuss with the organizers at the first meeting to decide how shall we generalize this specific terrain, because it depends on how it looks. It is like very often we get questions, how high shall a boulder be to be mapped on the map? And there is some in the specification for the forest that it says 1 meter minimum height. It's a recommendation. But if you are mapping in north of Sweden, perhaps no boulders lower than 2 meters shall be mapped, because the whole forest is full with boulders. But if you're mapping in Belgium, perhaps all boulders shall be mapped, even the boulders that are very low, because there is nothing else in the terrain. Generalization means that everything that is very, very clear for the runner shall be mapped, but nothing else. A practical example here about generalization. On the left-hand side, this little map shows how it looks, really. There is a stone wall, there is a path, there is 4 quite big boulders, there are some cliffs and a little marsh. But as you can see now, if you print this in 1 to 15,000, this area will be unreadable on the map. Then it's up to the mapper to start to think about what is most important and what can be left out. So what is important in this situation? The most important is the communication. The path can never be left out. The cliffs, at least the very high cliff to the right, can never be lifted out, because you cannot pass it. It's an obstacle. And the stone wall is perhaps also quite obvious. If you're coming into this area, there is a stone wall. But the 4 boulders can be, you can change this to the symbol boulder cluster to this triangle. Because as a runner, you see, if you're coming from the south, you see on my right hand side there is some boulders, quite obvious, but you will not be able in running speed to see how many boulders is it and the exact position of them. So therefore it's much better to replace the 4 boulders with this triangle. The next thing you can do is to take away the tags on the cliffs, so you get more space, more readability. And perhaps you don't see it, but I also changed the shape of the path a little bit to get some space to this boulder cluster triangle. It doesn't matter for the runner if the path is exactly on the right place. The important thing is that you have information about there is a communication. I can run through this area on the path. And the small marsh gets away because there is already too much things on this map. The small marsh is not the first thing you see as the runner. And finally, I took away the knoll, because there is 2 cliffs that is quite clear in the terrain. It is also an obstacle. You cannot go up there. And the boulder and the knoll is additional information here. If you want to put a control here, you can put it on the cliff instead. You can say it's on the ridge, on the end of the ridge, but so take away the knoll as well. And finally, you get a readable map. This is really generalization in practice. Just a small example. Okay, time is running on. Yeah, And suddenly we are in critical sprint map problems. Okay, here is 2 examples of problems from this year. First is of course Terezin to the left-hand side, World Championship. And the other example is very much discussed, extremely much discussed after the World Cup final in Italy. And it's not the 16 control, it's the area above the 16th control. It's the area where you see the stairs and you see the striped area. And yes, I must say that Map Commission have got, I don't know, 50 complaints sent to us from other mappers, from athletes who are participating in this competition, other people who are complaining about, yes, this stairs, they didn't understand how it looked. And it was also like this, that during the competition, the first complaints reached me and my email. The Map Commission we had a meeting in Vienna. So the whole commission looked at the map and nobody of us understood how it actually looked. And still I don't really understand, because I was not there, how it looks in the real life. So that was really a problem. And yes, in the sprint maps, we have problem that obviously must be solved or clarified. And the problem is, yes,
question from Kjell again.
Just continue.
Okay. The 3 problems that we have identified, we had identified it before the Italian competition, but the Italian competition was just a receipt, that it was the final proof that there is a problem. We have problems with tunnels, as you can see on the left-hand side. The symbol tunnel is not working together with impassable wall or impassable cliff. The mapper on the left-hand side, he's made the cartographic gap, a small white gap between the tunnel entrance and the wall, just to show that there is a tunnel. And that can be misunderstood as there is a possibility to climb up or go down between the walls and the tunnel. So the tunnel symbol is not working. The whole multi-level structure, like here also on the left-hand side with the striped areas, the yellow striped areas, that area is not following the specification, because the striped area in the specification was only invented to be used if you have a tunnel under some paved area. So it was not meant in the specification to be used for open land, yellow area, but suddenly it occurred here and we had to fix it. And it was a big discussion between me and the head cartographer in the World Championship, and we did what we thought was the least bad solution. And also not really here, but a little bit with canopy or not canopy. Where shall a canopy be mapped or where shall it not be mapped? Comes together, of course, with the whole multi-level structure. So this problem has been what the Map Commission have worked with 100% during this last year, because this must be fixed, and it must be fixed quite quick, we think, but because we see already the same problems for the major events next year. I can say that we see the same problems for the World Champs in Denmark, because this competition should happen last year. So we got the maps already 2019 for the map check, and we saw a lot of these problems, and still it's not solved. So okay. Therefore, the Map Commission, in our meeting in Vienna, we started to produce a brand new publication. Guidelines for mapping of complex urban structures on sprint orienteering maps.
Brigitte has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hello. I was the senior event advisor in Italy for the sprint relay or for the whole round. But my question is, how should we communicate with you? Because I haven't heard any complaints after the race. It's really interesting. On site, nobody was complaining about that.
No, because
neither the runners nor the coaches or so.
They ended up here.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I mean, we should communicate together. Even before the race, I just had like the communication through the organizers to you, and nobody told me that it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. The problem, I think that is why I'm sitting here today and talk to you, because I want to, for the first time, at least during my time in the Map Commission, it's the first time that the Map Commission are able to address the senior event advisors. It's not happened before. I'm not really talked or to a senior event advisors before. So that's perhaps the answer to your question, that this communication has not been established before.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been quite tragic. I even got some very angry emails, really angry emails from athletes or even from some federations. They demand the step down of the chairman of the Map Commission because of the failures in Italy.
But are you sure it's about this situation? Because we had really one mistake on the map around this ice hole.
Yeah, the ice hole
I've heard.
And the stairs is the two things that they have complained about. But I will not. We shall not discuss Italy. It has happened, and the competition is over.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we what I want is that it shall not happen again.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I must say, yes, we leave it. We leave it as it is.
It has a continuous question.
Just a comment, because I saw the problem on the TV coverage, and then I looked into the bulletin or team officials meeting, and it was presented the map around this problematic area. So that's might be the reason Brigitte didn't hear from the runners or team coaches on the spot there.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they were presented the problem in advance.
Yes, at least the stairs, what I showed you before, was presented in the bulletin. I know that. Yes, but still some of the competitors, perhaps when they came home and was thinking about it, because the first, the most angry complaints have been sent to me now in the last 2 or 3 weeks or something, because I don't know, they have time now to think about it, or but we skip the Italian problem. The problem.
Okay, Alexei, is your question concerning this?
Hello. My question is concerning multi-levels mapping. I'm very thankful for new ISPROM that was had a lot of answers to our questions. But anyway, we have got a map in Minsk in Belarus with the multi-level structures, and we found out that we can develop some forbidden walls in the multi-level structures, and we have already sent the message to Map Commission how is how it's going on?
If you let me continue, I will
Okay.
show you. Yes, I will show you what we have done. Okay. Because we have made this guideline, and this is very important now. I want to tell you that what I'm going to show you now is not yet approved by the council, but I really hope that the council will approve what I am going to show you. And then there is a council meeting just some days ahead of us now, and this issue is on the table for that meeting. But I show you our proposal, what we want to be done. Okay. I will. Yes, it's very many pages in this publication, so I just will go through it quite quick and talk a little about the main things that we have tried to solve. Okay, for the first thing on the left-hand side, this is what happened in Terezin, in Czech Republic, that we have a tunnel that was not only under the paved area, it was under some yellow area, it was green area, whatever. So we have decided that you can use this striped symbol showing tunnel under in the lower level on all types of surfaces on the upper level. And we have clarified that it in this picture how it shall look if you have a tunnel under, for instance, under impassable green area, that it should be striped 100% green and so on. So it can be used in all types of terrain to show that there is an underpass under the main running level. The problem here is that, of course, the map can only show in detail one running level. So the mapper has to decide what is the main running level. And of course, in 99% or 95% perhaps, I have some examples later on, the main running level is the upper level, because there can be some communication, some tunnel under the main running level that you are able to pass. Of course, most of the time it's you have a tunnel under a road or a railway or something. But here we have clarified how it should be drawn in all types of main running level areas. Okay, so we look at the next slide. Here is the only change really in the specification that we propose. The tunnel symbol as it is now will go away, and the new tunnel symbol will be, as you can see in 2.21, bridge to tunnel entrances, that we replace the tunnel symbol with small triangles in a row, showing that there is a possibility to go into the lower level. And these triangles are pointing to the entrance. And I think it's quite clear if you look at the pictures and you look at the small map examples to the left. And finally, we have solved the problem that if you have a tunnel entrance that is interplaying with a wall, that you can very clearly see that here the end of the wall, here is the end of the wall, and here starts the tunnel entrance. Okay. Yes. On the first picture on the right-hand side, you can see that if there is a tunnel that you are not able to run through, you are not able to get into the lower level, you shall not use this small triangles, because it only shows a tunnel where you are able to get into it. So if you have a tunnel like on the pictures here, you can see then you only show the tunnel with the impassable wall symbol, because you are not able or allowed to get into the tunnel. This is really the only change in the specification. All of the rest I show you is clarifications. Up, too quick. Here on this side you can see there are some examples of very complicated structures. And we have tried to show you in the map examples and the photos how it looks in the real life and how it shall be mapped. And here you can see that, yeah, we are using these triangles. And suddenly we at least hope that it will be much clearer for the runner how you shall do in these areas, that where you can go under the bridge and where it's not, you are not allowed to go under a bridge. And on the left hand side you can see, for example, there is a very long bridge from one side of the river to the next side, and you can go under the bridge everywhere except where the bridge goes over the river, and there is the symbol, the bridge is replaced with wall, and you are not using the striped light brown area. So we hope it's very clear. Yeah, on the right hand side there are also some more examples of very complicated areas. Of course, we think that we don't want to make it so simple that there will be more competitions in this type of very complicated area, because still it is, of course, a problem for the runners to understand in full running speed this very complicated area. So we have tried to find extreme complicated areas in our examples. But yeah, yes, to show you all the possibilities, but still we hope that sprint competitions will be mainly happening in more simple areas than this. An example like down there down to the right, very complicated area with some path going under the railway, and the railway goes over the river. And here we also define that you can see you are not able to run on the upper level. You cannot run on the railroad. So just to show you very clearly that you are able to run under the railroad, we skip the railroad by the bridge. You only show the bridge by the triangles, and then we show the lower level instead, just to be more clear for the runner. And one more example of this. Two more examples in the next slide. You can see very high bridges. On the left hand side, on the lower pictures, is the Noselski Most in Prague. It's like the bridge is 40 meters high or something. And under the bridge is a park. And these questions has happened very often, that we get questions from mappers about how to draw this. And here we try to finally define how it shall be drawn, that you use the triangles to show that there is a bridge above you, but you draw the lower level instead. And the same situation on the upper left example, a railroad bridge again, with there is also some sculptures under the bridge. And if you don't draw the railroad or the forbidden area, you'll be able to draw the sculpture that is under the bridge. So just to clarify how it shall be drawn. Yes, on 2.4, there is a small change, because you have a very broad bridge, and there is a junction between two paths under the bridge. and then you can draw it like this. Just with a simple line to show that there is a junction. You have two possibilities to continue. Yes, and 2.5, it's a quite example that I personally don't like to have this type of areas in the sprint map, but there is a parking garage with two entrances. And there is a possibility to go from A to B through this parking garage. And it shows how it should be mapped. We have really tried to find out all the problems that can occur in multi-level areas, and we have tried to explain some solutions for all of them. But still, perhaps there will be some even trickier problems, but perhaps there should be no competitions in that kind of situations. Finally, also in this publication, there has been very many questions about canopies. What is a canopy? What is not a canopy? And we try to draw some examples here, how we think that the symbol canopy shall be used. And on the right-hand side, is very often, this is a question we get all the time. This bus stop, weather shelters. It is a canopy. Is it a canopy or is it not a canopy? And it really is a technical problem because they are too small, but still all the time we get questions about this. And we have now we've decided, what is quite obvious really, that if there is no walls, if you can run through this bus stop, it is a canopy. But if there is walls and only one entrance, it's a building because you cannot run through it. But now we have clarified it once and for all, that is how it should be handled. Then also on the pictures on the right-hand side, we have found some examples where it is free levels. And now perhaps we have created solutions to draw two levels on many occasions, but here we have some examples of free levels. And what happens then? Because you cannot draw free levels. You cannot draw as you can see on the picture, the middle picture to the right. There is a balcony. You can run under the balcony, and above the balcony is a canopy. It's impossible because you have, and then of course it is like generalization once again. You will take away what is less important. And then in that picture, we think it's obvious that less important is, of course, the roof. Because you cannot run on the roof and the roof is not stopping you. So to take that away, it's no canopy. If there has been no balcony, it has been a canopy on the map. But now it cannot be drawn because it's impossible. The same with the bridge down to the right. There is a bridge over the road, and over the bridge there is a roof. So of course you draw the bridge, and the lower level is the road, and the roof cannot be drawn. But on the other hand, this little very nice bridge over the river with a roof, there you can draw the roof because you cannot run in the river, so the river is no running level. Then you can draw the bridge with the canopy on the bridge. It's very technical, this, but at least I want to show that this publication is now made so they can show it to the mappers if they have problems. And the last page is even more examples of what is canopy and what is not canopy. It's quite obvious, but still, it's a question that is asked very often between mappers. Yes. Any questions about this? Oh.
I just want to say thank you very much for this clarification. It's very nice.
Oh, I'm going
to check.
Now I have some problem. I must go back. I cannot go back. I'm not used to.
Okay, Kel has still a question.
Try left arrow.
Yeah, I will go back like this.
But let me ask you another question in the meantime.
Yes,
This is a document with guidelines.
Yes.
When should they be? What's the status of them? Is that is it the map specification or is it just guidelines that you can?
It's a clarification. It's a clarification of what is written in the specification. I mean, it's like I don't know how in Sweden it is like this. We have a law book, and then we have a lot of publications to explain to everyone who is working with the law how the law book shall be read. So this is the same thing. We have specifications is the law book, and this is like it's a helper. It's a guideline. How shall you use the specification, because the specification there is only a few sentences for every symbol, but here we try to explain, exemplify these symbols like canopy, like tunnel, etc., etc. So it's a guideline how you shall read the specification. But it is not in, it is, I mean, if you look at the mapping web page in the IOF internet structure, you can see we have the specifications and we have some guidelines. There is a printing guideline, for instance. There is a guideline about approved printing companies, etc. There is some in ski orienteering, we have only one paper, but it's also like a guideline with a map showing how it shall look, really. And I hope it will be the same now with the new mountain bike specifications also. It's just to explain a little bit, a helper for the practical work for the mapper or course setter. Okay.
Okay, Christer, we don't see your screen anymore.
Okay. Yes. Boom. No.
Not yet. Let's wait. Now it's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, private driveways it shows.
Yes, private driveways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I go ahead. Very quick now because I talk too much and the time is running on. Yes, this very common question also. If you have the driveways into the private areas, how shall it be mapped? And here I have examples. That's two ways to draw the private driveways. Most important thing is that the driveways into the private area shall not be mapped. The easiest way is to do it like on the right hand picture. Don't draw it at all, because as a runner you want just to get through this area on the road. You can do as on the left hand side, just to show some gap in the line, in this very thin line where the gap is. Or perhaps you can draw also, not in this picture, but you can draw a very short road Yes, if there is a very clear entrance, but the entrance doesn't lead anywhere. But no way drawing all the way into the house or something, because the most important thing is that the runner shall not go in there. And also on this picture, just very brief information that in the normal situation, you should not draw like hedges or walls or fences along outer bound area, because it's unnecessary additional information, because you are in this type of areas, you're just passing through from one area to another. Okay. Some quick things here that was requested from the Photo Commission, I think, just to talk a little bit about this. Teresin again. What is a wall and what is a cliff? This was also discussed by me and the mappers before the competition. And I think it's important in this type of terrain that you show that the walls are more like cliffs, just to help the runner to understand that there are different levels. So the mapper should not be afraid of, in these situations, to draw the walls as cliffs instead, just to improve the readability and understandability of the map. And I think in Teresin it was perfect done, because in all places there was impossible to have tags. They used tags to show what was up and what was down. But of course, even here, sometimes for the generalization, the tags were left out, like in area number 2, because otherwise the map will be hard to read. But the mapper should not be afraid of using tags in this type of terrain. Here is the same really. And then we are back again with the old tunnel symbol that should not be on the map if the map was drawn by the new ideas of the Map Commission. And the problems in number 2 here would not have been so clear that it was on the competition. Also here is a small picture just to show you how is the best way to draw if you want to make, like in this example, to make the competition a little more complicated in the park. It's much better to draw the park with outer bound area 520 instead of using drawing in this example yellow and then put all this course setting overprint with forbidden area, like at the start there. It's better to use the outer bound area, because then the map is much clearer. Even if the park is not forbidden area normally, this is the best way to do it. And now I think we are back in Italy on this example. I mentioned it before, but once more, if you have this type of terrain, it's very important that even if the houses are very close to each other, you must make the gaps between these impassable objects very clear, because it's very important when you make your road choice. So in the specification, sprint specification, the minimum gap is 0.4 millimeters between houses, like here, you have a wall, you have a stair, and you have a house. And this gap here must be at least 0.4 millimeters. So that is obvious for the runner. It's very clearly visible that there is a gap here. Otherwise there is a problem because not everyone gets the same chance to see the route choices. It's like here, perhaps here it could be more simplified. This little gap between the wall and the stair perhaps could be taken away. Perhaps the little green area should be taken away as well, because this is very important in this type of terrain to make the gaps. So this is very important to secure that all these critical passages are very clearly mapped. I don't know what to say something about this is how you can draw a cliff with or without tags. I can say that if you are going, if normally the impassable cliff shall be drawn with tags, but the tags can go away if there is for generalization situations. But this passable rock face, normally it shall be drawn without tag, because it takes too much place if you are looking to how important it is in the terrain. Only use the tags if it's not clear which side is up or which side is down. And there is also this possibility to use the check way to draw the cliffs as an area instead.
Alexei, you have a question?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have a small comment about the minimum space between forbidden or unpassable structures or buildings. You say that it is 0.4 millimeters, but for me it's too small, and I'm really fighting here in Belarus because we have no access to offset printing, and our maps usually printing on yeah, sometimes very good laser printers, but sometimes not less good. And on your Italian example, it was a smaller or thinner black line inside the passage between forbidden symbols, and it looks very very inconvenient, and it's very thin situation for runners. Okay, it can be in this norma 0.4, but at the same time we see that it's too much black color inside this small gap. So my proposal for the future maybe to make some maybe it's a bad idea to divide and then this minimum height or minimum wide or something minimum into two different printing solutions for offset and for laser printing. Or maybe in guideline you have already done that everything black should be omitted in from this smaller or thick, very thin passages. Maybe yeah. I just want to comment, and maybe you have something to say about this. Thank you.
I leave it for the next little next chapter of my little speech here about printing, because we are now reaching printing. I hope at least we have to do it, because otherwise the time will be out. Yeah. Before I get to printing, I just want to show you another, because here was also complaints sent to us and also to the Photo Commission, because I get this picture from Helge, I think. about the hedge and the contour line. And this is a printing problem, really, because as I understood, the sprint maps in Italy was offset printed with PMS colors. And then you get this problem that the brown, the contour, will take out the green. And so it shall not look like this. It is a printing mistake. It's not correct color order as it says down here. Yeah. So time is running out, and now I'm at my specialty, to the printing. Maps can be printed two different ways: offset printing or laser printing. And until the last 10 years, all maps, at least for important competitions, was offset printed. But nowadays, more and more laser printing. Yeah. And therefore, there is another guideline. This has been on the, there's two guidelines really. And this has been on the Mapping Commission webpage for quite some time now. And I will talk very shortly about this because this is very important. Printing and color definitions. The most important thing here is that in the old days, the PMS printing was the way we printed our maps. And this means that you had five colors. We have 6 colors really in orienteering map. It's brown, black, green, yellow, and blue. And then you also have the purple for the course setting symbols. And there was 5 buckets of paint for these 5 colors in the actual map. This PMS printing, and you print first the yellow, then the green, and then the blue, then the brown, and finally the black. And you put all the colors above each other, and then you get the problems as we saw on this example of the hedge, that the brown will overtake the green. But the PMS colors was used because we are drawing our maps by hand until, I mean, sometimes early 90s. It was drawn by ink on plastic, or the old-fashioned way, and then there was no other possibility to print like this. But as you probably know, everything else that is printed today is printed by SMYK. You mix colors instead of using different buckets of colors. And it's the same technique as in laser printing. That is, it's rasterized. And nowadays it's really hard to find printing companies that have the knowledge or the interest of printing with PMS colors. So some years ago we decided that there is also some disadvantages about PMS printing, like the hedges, like other things. If you have a creek on an open area, the creek is blue and the open area is yellow. You mix these colors, what happens? The creek is green. Now we had the problem in the previous specification with a well. The blue well was a blue circle. The green circle was distinctive tree. But if you have a well out on the field, it was a tree because it was green. PMS printing. So we decided back in 2018 that PMS printing should not be used anymore for orienteering maps, at least for the IOF competitions, because there are disadvantages. And this is explained here in this guideline. And we also decided that sprint maps shall not be offset printed for several reasons. First, this reason that you get this PMS problem, The second reason is that it takes some time to offset print, and sprint maps, as we said before, there are late changes. As I remember now, there was an example of the World Championship in Estonia, that the map for the sprint final was reprinted, as I remember now, 3 times because of late changes. And the final map was printed the night before the competition, but still offset printed. Because there were late changes. The day before the competition, the city suddenly dig a big hole somewhere in the middle of the map, and you have to replace it again, reprint it again. So we decided that both for quality and for accuracy, it's better to laser print the sprint maps. And sprint maps are not so very complicated. So if you have a good laser printer, the result will be not less good with laser printing than with offset printing. So our rules now really is, or recommended printing techniques, as it says here. For the photo, 1 to 15,000 maps shall be offset printed with SMIC technique, not with PMS. But it's a little B there, and it means that the contours, the brown contours, shall be printed with an extra color, because the brown contours are the only problem really with SMIC printing, because they will not be clear enough. If you have middle distance, we strongly recommend offset printing, but laser printing can be acceptable if the terrain is not so complicated. Sprint maps shall be laser printed, mountain bike maps shall be laser printed, and ski maps, of course, shall be laser printed, because there is absolutely no possibility to offset print it. Yes. And here is just some explanations about papers and so on, what shall be used. And then finally, there is a table here that is very important, and it's perhaps very complicated to understand. But if you are using SMIC printing, it's very important that you have a correct order of colors. Otherwise, will have the problem as with the hedge, because the color order in the sprint map means that 100% yellow shall be above the brown, because it's more important on the sprint map with the green than the brown. So if you have a brown and a yellow and a green symbol above each other, green symbol shall be visible and the brown shall be taken out. Then you don't have this problem with that.
Gail has another question.
Yep.
Yes, when you say that, for instance, ski orienteering, that laser printing must be used, I think what you mean is that it's acceptable. And when you say that offset printing is not possible, that's for economic reasons, I gather.
No, I mean it's like, I mean, you if you have a ski orienteering competition, you print the map very late in the evening, the night before the competition, because I mean it can come snow, it can start snowing. I mean when we have ski orienteering championship in Sweden, the world champs 2 years ago, the maps were even printed 5 o'clock in the morning, because yeah, the tracks will be different. It was snowing, the snow was melting, I don't know. So it's totally impossible to offset print, because offset printing, the map must draw. It's wet.
I see.
Yes.
Coming up, printing during the competition.
It's no idea, because ski orienteering map is a very simple map. It's no idea at all. It's even, if you're following the specification, it's impossible. It's the same in mountain bike. It's impossible to offset print it, because this layering of colors instead, for example, it's impossible. Yes. Looking at the map again. 1 minute too much. Yes, I must show you this picture of a sprint map, because this is mistake all the time. I've not seen any major event or IOF event this year with the correct color order in the sprint. This is how it should look. This is laser printed. This is from the Swedish Championship. Then it was correct. The course setting symbols shall be above all other colors except 100% black, because as you can see in the picture, the black is coming through the purple color, but everything else is under. And the numbers shall be above all colors. And normally it should also be this little white shade. He has to assure that the numbers, because numbers are very, very important in sprint when you have a very complicated structure of the course. This is how it shall look. Extremely important. Mistakes in all major events this year. Nobody has read the specification, obviously, or understood the specification. So this is my message to you. Please check that this will be correct. There was major complaints about the World Masters in Hungary because this was not the question there. Very, very complicated structure of the courses. Runners did not understand in which order they should take the controls because the numbers were hidden under or inside buildings, for example. Buildings were too dark also on the print, but everything disappeared because there was used some overprint technique in the laser printing. Shall not be used. Please read the specifics. Please read the guideline. The final thing is this. It was in the next back again. Yes, like this. This autumn we had we get a request from council because it has been printing problems to do a printing certification for major events. So during this year there have been a process. A lot of printing companies around the world have sent in the same map to Map Commission to be certified or be approved as deliver of maps for major events. And it was a very long and complicated process to check all these maps. But finally, a quite short list of printing companies around the world has been approved by Map Commission, and this has been approved by the council, this list. And from the 1st of January this year, for photo competitions, major events, only these suppliers shall be used. Yes, to secure both the printing quality and also the secure of the secret of the map and tracks, because there has also been some problems in the past that at least it has been suspected that it has leaked somewhere in the printing companies. This list of companies is presented on the IOF web page, and I can also tell you that this Friday, 2 days ago, this list has been a little longer because there is also now a Japanese company that has been approved. I just send him the logo he can put on his maps before this meeting. But it's not yet in this list. These companies have understood also how to print the sprint maps. Really, they have proved that they can understand in which order the colors of the map shall be printed. Yes. And finally, my message to you, remember this from this presentation, printing is much more critical than perhaps we think. For the major events, map commissions shall also control the maps, technically, theoretically. Be aware of the multi-level problems in sprint. And the maps shall follow the specifications. The specifications is actually a rule that shall be followed. It's not a recommendation or a guideline or just an idea of how to make a map. It's a rule. And the map shall be readable. Okay, 7 minutes too late, but still.
Still, Christer, it was a really interesting presentation. So thank you for that. And we are open for some questions.
Yes.
Probably not a lot. Okay, go ahead with the questions, Brigitte.
Yeah, just to come back to the Italian problem, how do we continue to work together? I mean, that's really important. I think that we as event advisors know how to be like, just do we have to communicate through the organizers or do we communicate directly with you, the map commission?
You are welcome. You can just I mean, there is a list presented somewhere now, because there is one member of the map commission who is responsible for every senior major event next year. So that there is one guy who is responsible for each competition. So please feel free to contact him, or sometimes it's me, if you have any questions. You don't have to go through the organizers because I think that we should work together. So absolutely, yes, send an email or call us or whatever. We can discuss together.
Yeah, or maybe you could even, the one who is responsible from your side can even take the contact. Like,
yeah, I know that sometimes it happens, but I think in Italia it has been problem now with all this COVID situation and changes of the program and so on. So I think that yes, the Italian competition we missed it. Yeah, it was our little bit also our mistake, or my mistake, because as I am not sure about in the end that it was lost somewhere in our planning. Sorry about that.
No problem, but just let's make it better in future.
Future, yes, everything should be better in the future. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitte. Other questions? Chen Chao, please.
Thank you. And I have a question about laser printing. Yes, in China, we normally use laser printing rather than 6-color printing. And in the mapping seminar, Luda was mentioning about the adjustment color card. And we can download from the IOF mapping commission website. And Luda say it will send the paper adjustment card to every single federation. But I asked the federation OAC, they say they don't receive this color adjustment color card, you know. So how we get this card?
Send an email to the IOF office, because
Okay.
they are responsible to send out this print tech sheet, as it's called, and it should have been sent to every federation. But contact the IOF office, because they are responsible for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, probably time for one last question. Okay, I see there is no last question. So once again, thank you, Christer. We will try to stay in contact and remember to invite you for these kind of seminars. This was the first time we had this online seminar with our event advisors, but we will make sure to invite Map Commission also for the next seminar. So once again,
we appreciate that. Yes.
And I see that it was really interesting for the audience also. Okay, but we will move on now, and our last block is about sprint course planning, and we will have Ivar Malen from Norway presenting, and Ivar has so many titles. I will let him introduce himself. Ivar, it's up to you.
Thank you. I'm very glad that this seminar has happened. I followed both topics yesterday, and it was really nice, and also today. So it's a very good idea and it's easy to gather people in this way. So and also before I forget it, thank you, Christer, for sharing a lot of good ideas and new rules or specification with us, because as we all know that the course setting and mapping for sprint are very closely related. So thank you for that. So this presentation is put together by Helge, Jarska, and me. So we have worked this together, but we agreed, or I was the one that was lucky to present this. So I try to go through this. Sort of a disclaimer before I start is that we will not present any conclusions. We have just tried to pinpoint some. For sure, it's rules and requirements, and we will try to show you some examples for what we think of, what we should think of as event advisors. And it's a lot of good examples that we find. If you had wanted, we could probably have found a lot of bad examples also, but we didn't want to blame or make those the situation worse. But so we have a lot of examples that we'll show you. So yeah, I've been event advisor and a controller for some years, and most of these have included sprint also, especially these years with World Cup as a Nordic tour. It was, I would say, sprint in different disciplines, different types of sprints all these years. So to kind of an introduction here, as a quote from Florian Håvald after this year's walk. It's about that the runners, or you could say it comes down to the question how tricky or simple we want sprint races to be. But I think Walk Sprint 2021 was far from being an unfair labyrinth with sprint course. On the other hand, it offered great route choice orienteering with highest speed. So one working title of this presentation was how difficult can a sprint course be? Because it's, as we'll try to show at least, it's not easy to say when it is too difficult, too demanding. When does it become an unfair labyrinth? So it's, I think, and also together what Christer just said about multi-level structures and the problems to map more than one level. So it's yeah, become a three-dimensional problem also, I think. So something from the rules. I know it's not easy to read this for you, but in IF rules appendix 6, it's stated about how the profile of sprint should be. It tests the athlete's ability to read and translate the map in complex environment and to plan and carry out route choices running at high speed. So that is, I think it's one of the major focus that you should have, that it should be solvable in high speed. And it's also, I think, very important, and these days I see mostly no problem with that, but earlier it was that the controls were far too tricky, because as it's stated here, finding the control should not be the challenge, rather the ability to choose and complete the best route to them. So the complex or the difficulties of the control itself should be very easy. So it's not a matter of reading the control description, every column in that to find the control. That is one thing we should remember. And as I already said, that areas so complex that it's doubtful whether a competitor can interpret the map at high speed should be avoided. For instance, where there are complex three-dimensional structures. So I think, and that is according to what Crystal Carlson just said, that for sure every or a lot of urban areas could have complex structures, but I think we should avoid them, if at least when it's not possible to map them understandable. It's like also for forest orienteering, if it's too detailed area on the map that is not possible to read, that they should be avoided, for at least for long distance on 1 to 15,000 map. So to use most of the terrain could still be possible, but the most tricky areas should then be considered to not be used, at least. And for sure, the map, that it's crucial that the map is correct and possible to interpret at high speed, is just something that Christer also told us about. I'll come back to that, but and yesterday, when David Rosen's about the rules, and he showed that some numbers from this year's major events, that a lot of winning times were too high. And here it's stated sprint should have 12 to 15 minutes, preferably in the lower part of the interval. And yeah, it goes without saying, but the fairness is paramount also for sprint. Yeah, especially I should say for sprint, because it's a lot of things that could be wrong and could affect the results. So what cannot be foreseen from the map shouldn't be included. And also from yesterday's rule section was stated, and as David Rosen said, it will be included in the revised competition rules, IF rules. But it's the wording is here also from the appendix 2. That is the 15-meter straight line distance, minimum of that, or the running distance not less than 25 meters for different types of control objects, and 30 meters and less. So this is also what we should remember. So how about the thinking of course setting for sprint? It's possible, and as you will see, I've collected some quotes and other stuff from guidelines for course planning. It's both for forest and sprint. It was from June 2020, and I really, those of you who haven't read that, I really recommend that. So some aspects or keywords. You want high speed, you want a lot of route choices, you want a lot of decision points, and you want to stress the runners. So you can say that the higher the number, the values altogether here is, the more challenging the course will be. So to ensure that you have all these elements, so to say, both on how to challenge the runners with the combination of this is important. And it's also a quote here. I won't go through this, but it's, yeah, we have some. We could have some description of how a good sprint course should be, and it's also in the same document suggestion to rate or rank sprint course with taking every leg and see how many points or how good each and every leg is, from just no route choice or just pure running up to complex with many decision points. And then you could add this together or find the average for the course or whatever. But it's just to look at each and every leg to see what kind of function or what kind of quality is it on each and every of them. For sure, like on forest courses, you don't manage to get every leg at a high demanding level, but at least for the most legs it should have any function or should challenge the runners. So then to some examples. This is from the European Championships, the sprint final. It's a leg from over here to 5 to 6. And which kind of challenges do we have here? For sure, we have steep terrain, we have stairs, we have narrow passages, and we have closed roads. So more or less all the details or factors that challenge the runners not to be so it's not easy to see which is the best route choice is used here, or find the terrain that all these are present. The red circles here indicates either steep stairs or small crucial passages that are important for, at least for the right-hand leg here, or route choice. As you can see, this was 3 or 4 different route choices that were present here. Sorry, let's try to. And it's and the difference here, as you can as we could see from the results, is that the red is then nearly 20 seconds faster, even if they are, the one is the red than the green, even if it's 5 meters length, or the length is very, very similar. But it's it's an example of a challenging leg with a lot of different factors that influence that. And one very late example is from world ranking event. That's a lot of good runners from different nations participated in October. This leg from Arena Passage to number 10 up here, the area is not that difficult. It's a lot of streets, and here it's just that they have used, it's just closed roads that are a factor that could be played with, so to say, here, because we don't have, it's totally flat, we don't have stairs, it's not that many narrow passages, so it's just used, or just closed some roads or streets to make this long leg interesting and not very obvious way to run. So compared to the Swiss example, it's other tools that are used here to challenge the runners. And just one comment here for this. Yeah, I think this this map symbol is more and more used, and to show that this street here is closed. But this is from the bulletin 4, or for the bulletin. It was not a. It was just a world ranking event. But the reason why that the organizers had such plastic poles, it was that the municipality didn't allow the organizers to have more permanent fences. So it's and it's important to show, and it was plastic tape in between this. But it's just an illustration of how it could be done to follow the instruction from the municipality. So here you see that the same leg here that we showed from 9 to 10 had here it's the different route choices, possible route choices drawn from Eva Urenikova. And here you have the GPS tracking, so you see that it's spread all over. So I will say that this is a successful type of leg that you spread the runners, and it's also some difference in the time used for these different route choices.
Ivar, Kel has a question.
Sorry, yeah, Kel.
More a comment regarding the bulletin you showed before. I think it also shows that you giving the right information in the bulletin will also help the runners to understand what they will see in the terrain, and how they should react on it.
Yeah, very good comment, because I think that is it's not easy to say that it should be a standard barrier that should be used all over the world, but that for sure we are not able to do that. So then it's important to show in the last bulletin how this is done, also with photo, I think. Thank you. Yeah. So
just a moment, another comment from Daniel.
Yes, please.
Yeah, hello, Ivar. Good afternoon. Just one more comment or remark on that one you showed from the bulletin, the way of drawing this barrier in purple. I wanted just to add a practical comment what we had in what happened to us at WOC 2021 in Terezin in qualification, that when you draw this artificial barrier with purple only, it's then part of the course layout, and if you do the offset printing, it might be a bit shifted. And it happens to us that actually there can occur a small gap between the building and the purple, or what happened to us in opposite direction, that the purple, the hedges or the out of bound area could move a bit and cover the passage. So just be careful on this, and if you block the street like this, always try to do the purple area or line a bit to the buildings, because it may very easily happen that then during the printing there a small gap can occur, and it could be a problem then for runners. So it was just a small comment from my side.
Very good, because and I still refer to Christer Carlson, but he said that they now say that the Map Commission says that for sprint maps they should be laser printed or printed, not offset printed. You could argue that they could also be complex with thin lines and things, but what you just said is an argument, because if you use offset printed maps and overprinting, it's not that accurate, and for sure in sprint we really need to be accurate. So I think that is an argument that supports the Map Commission's view on this. Okay, so and this example of this terrain is already shown by Christer, but it's I don't think, as we say, that many top athletes did not see the right route choice here to the fourth control, and many of them run around here, and even if they have just come from the first two controls inside the park, so that this olive green area was I don't know, but it's very strange that this happened, and for sure it's a very, very nice leg that you use the olive green with pass inside to get a nice, together with this road closing for sure, but to have interesting legs even is in such an area. So to combine, and we'll come back to this very soon, it's to combine different types of challenges. You're able to make good courses, sprint courses, even in pretty easy terrain. Yeah, here is the results, and actually it was 8 to 10 seconds that those runners that run this route choice lost to those who went through the park, and that was this is pretty much in sprint orienteering and very early in the course also. So and back after a small loop, it's also very few that here it's also the same, that a lot of runners took this right hand, you can see it here, route choice to this next, that was next before the TV control, I think, and even if they have been in the park before once or twice. So it's it's and here the main thing is how long is this fence, because it's very easy, you can run really fast here, and it's really simple orienteering also into the control, but the main thing here is how long the visible impression, or how long is this fence, to make the runners unsure about, is this the best route choice. But here at least a lot of them, runners, the best runners I should say, took this, but the green one was the fastest. So, and then to Czechia, and here, as also Christer had already said, that this was the challenges here is that we have a multi-level terrain, or multi-level map with tunnels, and also mostly, at least for, yeah, I would say mostly natural barriers, but they are in an irregular pattern, so it's not easy to see what kind of the length, which route choice are the shortest in with different geometry. But yeah, here the multi-level structures was tried out, and now it will come. So it was, yeah, nice to see that it was proven to functionate. Yeah, so this is then the course or the route choice here, and yeah, for that actual leg. So that was the first leg in this area, and for sure it's, yeah, the tunnels here, as you see, both in and out of the control is out of the 12th controller into the 13th is crucial to understand where it's runnable and where you end up. Here you have a much shorter leg, but the same type of challenges from the 14th to the 15th. You really need to. It's a lot of obstacles or barriers on this leg, so you really need to decide fast where to go. So it's in the middle part of the course, and so the runners have already been challenged on this and made familiar with some of the terrain, so to say, here. And this is showing that, and here we have just 2 levels then that is mapped, and I think what Christer said is to avoid, it's problematic enough to map 2 levels, and I think 3 levels are not possible, and I think that was the situation in Italy in the World Cup final, that it was tried to indicate that it was 3 levels of runnable or map features. So second or third time through the same area, from the 20th to the 21st. As you stated, now the runners should know the options. So I think it was not that much difference in our. They managed to do this better than in the start. Here we have an example from the qualification from the 11th to the 12th, and even if it's a bit complicated here, you see that from the 11th you really need to go out with just one way, and it's also over here. So then it's just to look for how it's possible to go around here. So yeah, and also the athletes were prepared that they will meet this type of legs in this area. So they have studied the old maps, but this shows that it's yeah, it's a very long way around, but it's not that complicated.
Kel, another question, comment?
Yeah.
Yes, I think this is a good example of there's a thin line, I think, between having to find the best route choice and having to find a route choice at all. I mean, there is only more or less only one route choice here, but it takes some time to find it. So, well, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I will come back to that. So very soon. So, but it's a very good question or comment, because if you're not able, if you take the first and best that you find that is runnable or feasible, I don't know should be. But I have an example on that, so I'll focus on that very soon. Thank you. So here again from the qualification in Czech Republic. So from 16 to 17, this is longer and it's much more complicated, I think. So it's, yeah, you know that this is a type of leg that if you turn it the other way around, that you see it from 17 to 16. I think that's the way you should do it, because you know that you can't pass this. So, and it's, yeah, as long as the runners know approximately when about the terrain, the old map and that kind of thing, it's I think this type of leg is inside what we could challenge them with, for sure. And here we don't have, it's, as I said earlier, for this competition, it's mostly natural barriers. It's not artificial barriers that wasn't needed to use them, for sure. For some shorter barriers, they were used to make the route choices, or different route choices, different from what they had planned on in their preparations, but still. So, and this is also shown by Christer, but the last challenge here from to the second last control, and it's all about how to read the map here. And yeah, with the old tunnel sign, it's, if you really look at the map, it's is it possible to climb the side here, or is it? And here we also have an artificial fence. This is the photo that Christer showed us. So the previous control is over here, and the next is here. So here we have the artificial fence that is here. So it's, for sure, you can't climb here, so you have to go around and up here and down again here. But it was decisive, because as you see from here, most of the runners either went through the tunnel and up and down again, or all around here and up and down again. But Tim Robertson, he didn't see that, or at least he ran all the way through here, and then he was on silver position here, silver medal position here, and in finish he got the bronze. So that decided, because here it's 7 seconds slower than to go around here. I haven't talked to Tim, but from the interviews and that kind of thing, he didn't dare to try something here, so he went all around. So this is an example of that the close connection between understandable map and course setting. Yeah, hopefully with the new tunnel symbol, this will be easier to understand that it's not possible to what is possible and not. So more comments on this type of natural complex environment? No? Then I go back to what Kjeld asked for, or asked about. This is from World Cup in Imatra in Finland in 7 years ago. And the first leg, they started here, got a map over here, 10, 12 seconds, and then they should find their way to the first control. Isn't that long, but it's really complicated. Due to, there's a lot of artificial barriers, a lot of them. yeah, you have the road, you can't cross the road everywhere here. The large roads are closed, very artificial, I should say. And you have also other closed or semi-closed passages. That is, so here I remember that when afterwards, even the very best runners, they said, it was very complicated. I struggled to find any feasible or runnable route choice, and when I found that, I just took it because it was not possible to see what was the fastest. You say that it's not that complicated if you go around here, but it's to find it. It's in 10-12 seconds. Because it could have been that you could have run down here also. I will cut the map, but the two best route choices were here. So yeah, it's at least when it's the first control. Then, if you have this then being later in the course, that might be more acceptable. I'm not saying that it was not acceptable, but I think that both organizers and the event advisor agreed that this is on the very border of what should be used in at least very early in the course. Then back to what kind of challenges we could offer the runners, and here it's the quite opposite of Denmark. it's from JWOC this year, and we have both steep terrains, stairs, and also some narrow passages. Not that much, but some. So this leg is demanding just as it is because of the terrain. It's you have a lot of steep stairs, and you could have or flat running around, but it's an example of I think a good leg, provided that you have a terrain that's it's not that many. It's not that big roads, but it's and the network of roads are not very symmetrical, so it's in itself it's not easy to see what is the shortest route choice here. So a good terrain to challenge the runners with good course setting, then for sure, by itself, without doing any artificial trick to challenge them more. So to try to sum up, not to conclude, but things to consider. Yes, we know that athletes are in favor of complex route choice legs in sprints. And as I just said, how early late in courses leg placed. Not good to have an extremely complex leg to control number one, as we had an example of. I think that both relates to individual sprint and also to sprint relay, as we come back to. And for sure, if the athletes hadn't have the old map of the fortress in Czechia, then I think the tunnels and challenges there could have been too much, or to interpret when you get the map on the start line, or for sure you have run some minutes before you come to the fortress, but anyhow. And for most situations, you have an old map of the terrain or the city or the fortress. So then it's yeah, you could use that as a base to consider how complex it should be. Yeah, and also this the 5 to 7 seconds is just one thing that Helge and Joska and me put up, but we should ask ourselves the question as a course setter and event advisors, even if we are not on the same level as the top athletes. We should remember that. But will a well-prepared top athlete be able to identify good route choice within 5 to 7 seconds? If the complexity of route choice is very high, for sure, then you need to use 5 to 7 seconds many times before you reach that, or you could use that. So, but at least it's how long time do the runners need to look at the route choice to find a good route choice or the best route choice, if it's possible? I think it's at least a question to ask. Or this, if we play with or want to play with artificial barriers, is it possible in this area? Will the authorities in the city allow to enforce them? So it's also what's possible in the actual area or the terrain or the city or part of the city, because it's what kind of artificial or challenges, as I listed up, do we end up with? Because for sure we can't rebuild the city. So it's, if we want to do something, it's some artificial things, but at least we should think of this. So if it's possible to make it happen. So any comments or questions to this about how complex or how what kind of tools we have to make this complex, before I move to the next theme? Daniel?
Yeah, sorry, I was mute. Yeah, one more question maybe from my side. I would like to know your opinion, or for the long legs, if you consider, or you showed the map from the EOC this year from Switzerland, the sprint, where it was mostly the curse of one decisive leg, where you can, when choosing a wrong route choice, you can lose like half a minute and more, and maybe it will very influence your result. The same example was my course from World Cup final 2018 in Mladá Boleslav, where there was one really long route choice on a sprint race, and the differences were like over half a minute. What's the the biggest punishment you as a course setter can like set on the route choice, so not the runners, because then I think it can, if it's not very good if one wrong route choice on the course totally destroys the race. And I'm always, when I'm setting the courses, asking myself, what's the biggest difference? And as you showed some examples from Terezin, that I was also quite surprised on some of the courses in some of the legs in the park, how big the differences were. That from the length and theoretical measuring, it looked that it cannot be so big. So I'm always asking, what's the biggest difference we can afford, we can use? And I think when it's over 30 seconds or 35, just a punishment for a one wrong route choice on the course, then I think it's too lot, or it's too big, from my opinion. But I don't know.
No, I agree. I agree. It's on the other end, if you balance all your legs that you're not losing more than some few seconds, it's not good course setting either. But so at least it's not easy to unbalance the leg, because in most, at least on pretty short legs, and because it's the top runners are very good at finding where is the shortest. But so I think that is another thing that we should try to have some few legs at least that are the difference is up to 10 seconds. But I agree that maybe 30 is too much, because for sure you could lose 30 seconds, but then you make some errors on the route choice, because you could run in some dead end streets or whatever. But if you have just a few route choices and it's as much as 30 seconds, I think, yeah, I agree with you, because then you're out of the game. And I think it's because of things that you're not able to see on the map that it differs that much, because it could be very narrow, it's very steep, because of stairs is not, it's not easy to map at all, because that could be from very kind steeps to very angry streets, so to say, very steep. So I think I don't like the stairs on sprint maps, because you can't see what kind of stair it is. But it's difficult to conclude, but or I shouldn't do that at least. But I agree with you that too much of then it will be more or less become a trap, and a trap is nothing that we should offer them. We should challenge them, but the punishment of taking the wrong route choice, at least when the penalty is half a minute, and maybe too long.
Franz has a question.
Yes, of course. In the last years, I saw often another problem. Often is for the competitors is not readable where is the next control. You have so many controls near together, or crossing points, crossing lines, and so on. Maybe to bring two halves. I mean, first half or first part of route for a full leg, and you distribute it in two halves. Then it is better readable for the runners.
Yeah.
What do you mean about it?
I think that is often done, that you have a map turn, that you have the first half on the front side, and then you just turn it around and have the second part of the course on the backside. Because as you saw from Tersin in Bok, that was they used that fortress for a lot of controls forth and back. So then it was necessary to have a map change or map turn halfway. So I totally agree that it should be readable, because if you have too many control markings and lines on the map, it's not possible. It's difficult as it is. Okay, then something about forkings in sprint, and that is both from Jari.
Hey, good evening. One comment or from my practical experience. You mentioned the artificial fences. just a word of warning that if you have a loose end of artificial fence, has happened very often that it's wrong positioned in the early in the morning, just a few minutes before the competition, which often is the case. You have to be very, very precise and measuring that precisely up front. So that is one of the critical things, just to remind you.
We have that on the list what to remember. So I agree with you. I'll come back to that. So sprint and forking is both and then in the relay and also in knockout sprints. We have no examples on route choice or other forkings for knockout sprint, but some of them, some of these are valid also for that. So back to the sprint relay in this year's World Championships. It was a lot of forking. This is the first part of the courses then. So you see that it's not many common. It's number 3 here is the first, and then it's number 7. So it's even in the beginning and in the after that it was forking. And when I watched this on TV, and saw this, I was a bit scared because forking that early in a sprint relay is a risky business, because here also you stop and turn around, and then you have 8 other ladies on your back when you turn around. So, but I didn't see any accidents here. But my advice, at least, that is, it's if we want to have early forking, it should be that you could run through the control. You could pass the control without turning around and getting out again. But it went well. So yeah, if we go to this leg then, it was either here some half of the runners has this and the other half has this, and that was common over here. And as you see this, it was not on the first or second leg, but on the third and fourth. Some runners started to find this, but I think it was, and as you see here, Kasper is running fast, but I think it was also in the women's class that some runners did have a good split time on this. So it's an example of a very good route choice leg or part of this. The only problem is that, and this is from Knut Mathisen, he is a very enthusiastic viewer on every broadcast and doing analysis afterwards. So this is a comment from Vørlovo that I've taken it from. It's a pity that most of these exciting differences with time losses and gains could not be visualized and explained on the live TV broadcasts. So I'll come back to that, but it's at least it's an example of a good forking that made some difference. So yeah, a good example. Here is the next part of this sprint relay, and I don't know if any of you did understand what was happening in here watching the tracking or live TV broadcast, but it wasn't easy. Yeah, sorry. So and as you see, the 7 and 8 was common, and then it was down here was the 10th was also common. So it's a lot of forking in this, and I think it was used in a good way, and the runners were really challenged. But as I will come back to it, it's not easy to show on TV. It was runners all over, and it wasn't easy to see how they were placed related to each other and the way. Here we have a nice type of forking that you either go here and there and there, or the opposite way. So these two controls were used in different sequence. So you met each other here, and it's, yeah, I haven't seen that other places that are very local quiz class relay each and every year. So, but it was a lot of different forking types here, I think, shown. And yeah, here we had some artificial fences, and for sure over here. So you could ask, was it too much? Was it understandable? Is it for TV coverage and average TV spectators? Was it understandable? But I think from the runners, they were really pleased with this type of challenges and yeah, fairness also, to say. The final then, the World Cup final, the sprint relay, and some examples. The first control, really easy forking here, but I didn't see any runners, or at least for the first leg, going around here. So all runners went up here, and then they lost 5-7 seconds and ended up behind 15 other runners going back to the field again here. So it explains that it doesn't need to be difficult or very challenging in the start of a sprint relay to challenge the runners. Other examples here from Italy is that you have a lot of forking here also, and even if there was not much difference in them, so I think it was possible to, on the TV, to follow the situation pretty good, so it wasn't happening too much. Was already mentioned that the Olympic hockey arena here, it was used, and yeah, we have some forking with A and B here, and there's a common control over here, also with the map change or map turn. But both on the leg 2 to this 8 control, and also from the control inside the ice hockey arena, from here to number 11, even if it wasn't forked, it was different route choices going either way here, and it was both from here to the number 8 and out again. It was making differences or there was differences in route choice time on this. Here we have an example that is 2 controls on an open area, and I didn't see the runners all run together here on this leg, and for sure wasn't that much difference, but maybe it was, it was an example of two very easy controls. Maybe there wasn't challenging them because they didn't lose anything following each other here. Yeah, it's another example there. So more or less sum up of what I already have said. In a sprint relay, it's difficult to to understand, at least in most of the cases for the TV viewers, what is happening. Maybe we state that use GPS instead. It requires that the GPS quality is good enough, and maybe it's not easy to understand that by that either. But it's at least when it's very difficult forking, it's not possible to understand what's happening. So to keep the fork part of the course short enough to provide decent TV coverage of the straight parts, or so. But the two examples we have seen on now on the sprint relays are that more forkings on the whole course, and for sure for the runners it's nice. But as we have said here, to try to have longer route choice legs instead of forking. It's not easy to spread out the runners on different forkings, but at least it's much more easy both to follow on GPS and on TV to understand them. Maybe not on TV because they are not able to see them, but at least on GPS. So it was also mentioned, Graham Gristwood, our David Rosen presented in the Rules Commission, that a lot of sprint courses are not short enough. And this is again from the guidelines of sprint planning. So note that since many sprint or urban races are held on hard surface, the best runners achieve very similar speed whatever the area used. So we have a priori or a historical data for what kind of pace do the best runners, world's best runners have, and also every nation's best runners. So you could use that very much. So here I haven't looked at this, but I rely on this, that 3.5 minutes per K for the men, and just over 4.1 or 4.06 then, 4 minutes per kilometer for the women. And when you know that, you can then say that if I want to have 14 minutes winning time, you just, for the men's class, you divide by 3.5 and get 4.0 kilometers. So I haven't stated here, but some of you know that I hate test running. It's no use. As I will come back to, it's the only use of test running is to see if it's something that you should be aware of during the different phase of the course planning. If it's something that a good runner in a competition speed don't understand, and also the morning before the race, you should have a test runner, but never use that for estimating the winning time. It's much better to use this. And it's also here stated that you also reduce for climb during the course. Here it's stated that 100-meter climb, total climb, equivalent with 1 kilometer of distance. I'm not sure of this, but I think for sure it should be corrected. But if it's pretty flat, this historical or experience numbers should be used. And how to measure them? Yeah, it's for sure. I guess you all know that. How should the course length be given or measured? So it's the straight line, but deviating to take care of that. You have physically impassable obstructions, high fences, lakes, impassable cliffs, prohibited area and marked routes. So for forest orienteering, it's not problem because then you have the straight line, that is the course length. But for sprint, it's totally different. You can't run through buildings, and you have impassable obstructions, fences, and whatever. So then it's really important to measure this. And you could, so for sprint, the shortest legal or possible route choice from start to finish is then the length of the sprint course. And that could either be measured in OCAD, that you draw the shortest way through the course and click on that and get the length of that, or you could use the tool 2D rerun. I don't know if any of you have, or many of you have used this, but it's a really nice course for not only event advising or controlling, but also for course planning during the process. It's Volvo Jan Kochbart that's made this, and it's available on this link here. So you have the course, you have an image of the map, and then you just digitize the different route choices here, and automatically, because you have scaled it, you get the different options. So for both planning and analysis, I know a lot of runners use this in their planning. So it's also yeah, it's a video of this also. So I really recommend this for using in course planning. So tip the course setters that they should use this to have a good quality. So then I get back to what I said. It's not more than recommendation, and we started, I think, with 4 and ended up with 7 must check items. For sure, this could be rewritten to be clearer, but at least with 7 points that we have, we want to share and headlight on. Is it consistency on fence and hedge passings that this is clear? Yeah, and then about the quality on the printed map, could you clearly see the passages? Is the light opening in between houses and hedges and whatever big enough to be seen? And that's important on the printed map, because on your computer screen you could always find it. Are you sure that the gates will be open closed according to the map? So to have to ensure that the organizer have full control of this, and if you don't, yeah, the course setter or organizer should have a bolt cutter, or what is called in English, to open locks that should be open. But this is very important, but because it's often a map of the day, and that's gates that could be both open and closed, and you decide in your course planning if it should be open or closed, and then it should be of the day of competition according to the map. And it should be a plan for artificial barrier, and that was what you, Jari, commented, that the accurate placing of this is not that you should have a fence down there and down there. It should be drawn on an OCAD file in scale and used as a plan to when they are put up in the morning or whenever. So it should be very well thought through, and it should be accurate. And the same is for guards. We have rules that says that every control should be guarded, but it also, according to the gates, to the traffic, it's a whole staff of guards that's needed for I should say any sprint competition, at least when it's not a totally closed area. So plan for gates, how they should be, plan for artificial barriers, plan for guards, and also for taping them. That is, yeah, more or less the same for artificial barriers, but it's to enhance forbidden areas, flowers and whatever that is drawn on the map there with forbidden area. So that often you need to strengthen that in the terrain. And then the plan or the test running in the morning or before the race, for sure that is needed, and to have a good plan for that. And running through the course is not to check the controls, then it's to check the route choices. So and more than one person, so they could spread out and take different route choices. For sure, it's not that complicated in sprint because it's a very short course, so we are able to do that very condensed. But it's very important to see if everything is ready for the run. So experienced runners not trying to set a good time to compete with the competitors later, but to run through and have eyes open to see if it's something wrong, something unexpected.
Ivar, Jari has a question, comment.
Yeah, please, Jari.
Thank you, Jaska. While we have 60-some event advisors online, I would like to take this opportunity to give you another word of warning about the gates. In current world of digitalization and digital monitoring of the gates, can happen that, like happened in the World Masters, that the single block had 2 gates. It was quite okay for the housing company to allow the runners through. However, the gates were connected and the system didn't allow them to be open simultaneously more than 30 seconds. So it was quite okay for the people and the house owners, etc. But now the modern technology comes to us. So we need to learn to ask the same questions a little bit differently also. So this was a surprise. So please remember that the world may not be as simple as it used to be with the gate open or closed.
No, there is a lot of things, and you could make an agreement with the landowner the day before, and they either forget or change their mind during the night. So yeah, it was said from Christer that in Estonia the sprint there was needed to print a map more than once, and it wasn't offset map the last morning. I had to say that, but nevertheless. So to this is more or less what could go wrong, and to make a list of that. I'm not saying that this is the complete list, but a lot of them, at least if you could say that this is under control for the organizer, then you could, yeah, you should have at least it's sign that this could go good. but if the other way, if the organizers doesn't have the control of all these parts here, they should before the competition, because it's really important things or crucial things that could go wrong, and the whole competition could be avoided. Since I have 3 more minutes, I'll just go through this bonus material that Helge provided after we had finished this. But I think it's good examples. So, and that is about gates. We have one street into a private area here. It's from the other side. The picture is from inside, and normally this is locked. The gate here is locked, and for sure when you come here, you see then the control and you go out again normally. But when it's open, at least you don't understand the map, and it's not according to the map. So, and this was open during the race also, so it wasn't equal for everyone. So, gate problem. Here you have a really tricky question. So I'm sorry about the resolution for this on this, but this fence is possible according to ISPRO. So, and then placing a control on the inside here, is it allowed then to, or fair for the runners that come on the outside and just reach through the fence and punch and go back again, or compared to the runners that run around here? So I think the answer here is to avoid this. I don't like control points inside or outside fences anyhow, but so don't use such controls is my recommendation. For sure, if the fence was impassable, even if you could reach through, then it would have been illegal. So then you should be disqualified doing that. But here it's fully legal to do this, but it's not fair, I think. Here I have an example.
In fact, in the previous example, it's not the fence, but the retainable wall that's the issue. The passable wall.
Yeah. Sorry, the wall. Good that you corrected me, because here it's an example that you could have drawn the fence, but according to the mapping rule, you're not able to map both. So it's it's a passable wall. But there have been the same if it had been a passable fence then. But thank you, Kel. And here is an example of going from control number A here to control number B here. It's really tricky on the last part here, but then so one route choice for sure you don't have to go around here. This is from Denmark, and then one of the route choice went through the Finnish area, or could go around here, but this is what was not expected before. So the organizers expected the runners to run the routed the dotted line here, but some climb fences and that kind of thing. So here this could be then been out on the wild area here, but then to not make the runners able to run through the start-finish area. But then it's about the graphics, then it's not easy to then for sure here we have more than one forking, but anyhow it will be from A to B here, not that easy to with the graphics and the control line running through this. So it's unforeseeable example when courses are close to arena that the route choice could go through the arena, and it's been examples even I think from VOK this year. Tove Alexandersson made an attempt to run all around and ended up in the arena. So that ends our presentation, I should say. So thank you for your attention and questions. But if you have more, I'm glad to try to answer them.
Okay, any questions? I see that we are 1 minute after 5 o'clock, but still you can ask some questions. Anyway, Ivar, you started 10 minutes late, so it's not that your presentation was too long.
No, but I work as a lecturer, so I'm used to. I try at least to fit into the schedule. So.
Okay, but if there are no questions, then I will thank you, Ivar, and your colleagues for doing this presentation. It was really nice to hear something quite practical also. And it's also time to to close down this this session and this whole event advising seminar. And I think we were all quite happy that so many of you could spend your time on these sessions. We had 60 to 80 participants in the sessions. And once again, I can tell you that the sessions will be available in video format on YouTube, and we will upload the presentations onto the orienteering.sport website. And if you have any questions, you got an email from me earlier, and you can ask those questions through me all the time, and I can forward it to the necessary persons. But yeah, I think this was it for the session. So I hope that next year it will be much easier to talk also in person. And I hope to see you in some competition next year. Thank you once again, and bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.